The Zathran Dominion had conquered 47 star systems in the last century alone. Their empire stretched across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, and their appetite for expansion showed no signs of slowing. When their scout ships detected the Sol system, the military analysts celebrated. Here was a civilization still broadcasting primitive radio signals, still using chemical rockets to reach their own moon, still burning fossil fuels on their homeworld. The humans would fall in days, perhaps hours. Fleet Commander Thazrik stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Triumph, watching the blue-green planet grow larger on the view screen. Earth, the humans called it, a single world, teeming with billions of lives that would soon become subjects of the Dominion. Behind his ship, 46 more warships cruised in perfect formation. Troop carriers held ready to deploy ground forces. Mining vessels prepared to strip the asteroid belt of its resources. The invasion plan was simple because it needed to be. Primitive species required no complex strategy. Destroy their military installations from orbit, disable their communication networks, land troops in major population centers, and accept their surrender. The Dominion had executed this plan dozens of times before, but something felt wrong. Thazrik's tactical officer had reported an anomaly 3 days ago. The automated mining stations in the asteroid belt had gone silent as the fleet approached. Not destroyed, just silent. Their energy signatures vanished. Their communication arrays stopped broadcasting and their navigation lights went dark. Then the stations orbiting Jupiter went quiet. Then Saturn. Then Uranus and Neptune. The tactical officer suggested caution. Perhaps the humans had more advanced warning systems than anticipated. Perhaps they were preparing a defense. Thazrik dismissed the concerns. What could a pre-FTL species possibly do against 47 warships equipped with plasma cannons and shield technology? The stations probably shut down automatically when they detected the fleet, a failsafe programmed by frightened primitives who knew they couldn't fight. The fleet established orbit around Mars without incident. The red planet sat empty and cold, showing signs of early terraforming attempts. Robotic rovers crawled across the surface. A small research station sat abandoned in the southern hemisphere. The humans had barely begun to colonize their own solar system. They were infants playing at spaceflight. Thazrik opened a channel to all ships. Begin orbital bombardment preparations. Target their military bases first, then their communication hubs. Leave the population centers intact. We need workers for the mining operations. His crew moved efficiently, targeting solutions appearing on tactical displays. Weapons powered up, humming with lethal energy. In minutes, they would rain fire on the unsuspecting planet below. Then a transmission cut through every channel on the fleet's communication array. A human voice speaking perfect Zathran, calm and measured. You have entered restricted space. Withdraw immediately. Laughter erupted across the bridge. Restricted space? These primitives thought they could restrict anything. Thazrik gestured for his communication officer to respond. This system now belongs to the Zathran Dominion. Prepare for immediate surrender or face total annihilation. Silence followed. Long, empty silence, Thazrik frowned. He had expected pleading, negotiations, desperate offers of tribute. Instead, nothing. He checked his displays. All systems showed green. Weapons ready, shields at maximum. Engines holding position perfectly. Communications send another message. Tell them they have 1 hour to respond with unconditional surrender. The communications officer tried, then tried again, then looked up with confusion in his multifaceted eyes. Commander, our transmitters are functioning, but the signal isn't leaving the ship. What do you mean it isn't leaving the ship? I mean the signal generates, travels to our transmission arrays, and then stops. It's as if space itself is refusing to carry it. Thazrik's scales prickled with unease. That was impossible. Space didn't refuse anything. Space was empty. A void. A medium through which all signals traveled. Run a diagnostic. It's probably just a malfunction. While the communications team worked, Thazrik studied the planet below. Cities glittered on the night side. So many lights, so much energy being wasted on illumination. He could see the orbital satellites, hundreds of them. Tiny primitive things compared to Dominion technology. None of them moved. None of them seemed to react to the massive fleet overhead. Why weren't the humans panicking? Commander, weapons have lost target lock. Thazrik spun to face his tactical officer. What? All targeting systems show errors. Not malfunctions, just errors. The systems are working perfectly, but they report being unable to establish firing solutions. A chill ran through Thazrik's body. Manual targeting. Use visual references if you have to. The tactical officer's claws clicked across his console, then stopped, then tried again. Commander, manual systems also show errors. Before Thazrik could respond, the lights went out. Not just on the bridge, but everywhere. Every display, every control panel, every indicator light throughout the entire ship vanished into darkness. Emergency lighting should have activated immediately. It didn't. Backup power should have kicked in within milliseconds. It didn't. Thazrik heard his crew's breathing in the darkness, heard the sudden absence of the background hum that every spaceship carried. The life support, the engines, the shields, the weapons, everything had simply stopped working. Through the viewports, he saw the same darkness spreading across his fleet. One by one, every ship went dark. 47 warships, pride of the Dominion, reduced to drifting hulks in seconds. His personal communicator, a simple device powered by a chemical battery that should have been immune to whatever was happening, remained functional. It crackled to life with a new transmission from Earth. The same calm human voice spoke again. You have entered restricted space. This is your final warning. In the darkness of his dead ship, Thazrik finally understood. The humans weren't primitive. They had never been primitive. And he had just made the worst mistake of his life. Thazrik floated in darkness. Without power, the artificial gravity had failed, leaving him and his crew suspended in the black void of their own ship. Emergency chemical lights flickered to life after several minutes, casting weak green illumination across the bridge. Crew members drifted between stations, trying desperately to restore any system, any function, anything that would tell them what had happened. Nothing worked. It wasn't that the systems were damaged. Every diagnostic tool they could access with manual power reported that all equipment was functioning perfectly. The fusion reactor was intact. The power conduits were undamaged. The computer cores showed no errors. Everything should have been working. But nothing was. Through the viewport, Thazrik watched his fleet drift in the silence of space. Some ships had managed to activate emergency lights like his own. Others remained completely dark. He could see crew members in other ships through their viewports moving in the same desperate confusion he felt. His communications officer managed to establish a short-range laser link between nearby ships, using a manually aimed device. Reports came in one by one, all saying the same thing. Dead ships, intact equipment, no damage, no power, no explanation. Then the disappearances began. The troop carrier Vigilant Dawn, drifting 3 kilometers off the port side, simply vanished. Not destroyed, not exploded, just gone. One moment it filled the viewport. The next moment empty space remained where it had been. Thazrik heard screaming over the laser link before that connection died too. Other commanders reported the same phenomenon. Ships were disappearing from the formation, plucked away by something invisible. Thazrik ordered the crew to launch probes. Without power, they had to use compressed air to push the small devices out through maintenance airlocks. The probes were simple, barely more than cameras and radio transmitters with chemical batteries, but they were all the fleet had left. What the probes showed made Thazrik's blood run cold. The asteroid belt wasn't there anymore. Or rather, it was there, but wrong. The rocks had been moved, repositioned, carved, and shaped. What should have been random chunks of stone and metal were now geometric patterns stretching for millions of kilometers. Perfect grids, precise spacing, artificial structures hidden among natural camouflage. The moons of Jupiter weren't moons. Probes showed construction seams, docking ports, and weapon batteries. Europa, which should have been an ice-covered ball, was hollow. Ganymede rotated on an axis that natural bodies didn't use. Callisto's surface was too perfect, too uniform. They were ships, massive ships the size of moons, pretending to be natural satellites. Saturn's rings, beautiful and natural in every survey the Dominion had conducted, now showed organized patterns. Gaps in the rings spelled out mathematical equations that human children learned in elementary school, as if mocking anyone who looked closely enough to see the truth. Gravitational readings from the probes, showed distortions throughout the entire solar system. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Massive objects hidden in stealth fields invisible to sensors lurking in every corner of human space. The Sol system wasn't a star with planets. It was a fortress that happened to contain a star and planets. The tactical officer, working by chemical light and manual calculations, determined that the gravitational distortions represented more mass than the Dominion's entire fleet combined. Much more. The humans had enough hidden infrastructure in their solar system to build 1 million ships the size of the Eternal Triumph. A new transmission arrived on Thazrik's personal communicator. The human voice spoke again, still calm, almost friendly. "We've been waiting for someone to test our defenses. Thank you for volunteering. You've helped us identify 17 minor weaknesses in our containment protocols. We've already corrected them." Thazrik tried to respond, but his communicator's transmission function had stopped working. He could receive but not send. The humans controlled even that. The voice continued. "You're probably wondering how we disabled your ships. We didn't. We asked the local space-time to stop cooperating with your technology. It agreed. You see, we've learned to do interesting things with fundamental forces during our long isolation." The destroyer Razor's Edge, floating 2 kilometers away, suddenly activated its jump drive. Thazrik watched in horror as the ship tried to fold space around itself for faster-than-light travel. Space refused. The ship tore itself apart, ripping into pieces as it attempted to enter a dimension that wouldn't open. Metal screamed, atmosphere vented, and crew members tumbled into the void. "Please don't try to run," the human voice said. "The local space-time is under our control. Attempts to use your jump drives will result in structural failure. We'd prefer not to kill you, but we will if you force us to." Thazrik's crew stared at him, waiting for orders. What orders could he give? They were trapped in dead ships, surrounded by invisible enemies, deep in a solar system that had been turned into a weapon. Life support was failing. Without power, the atmospheric recyclers weren't functioning. The air grew stale, thick with carbon dioxide. Crew members showed signs of oxygen deprivation. Some had already passed out. Emergency oxygen supplies would buy them maybe 6 more hours. Then, through the viewport, Thazrik saw them. Structures, materialized from nothing, phasing out of stealth fields that had hidden them perfectly. They appeared slowly, deliberately, as if the humans wanted the Zathran to see every detail. Massive installations, each one larger than any ship the Dominion had ever built, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to twist in dimensions Thazrik's eyes couldn't properly follow. They looked ancient and impossibly advanced at the same time, like artifacts from a civilization millions of years old. But they weren't ancient. They were human. And every single installation bristled with weapons. Thousands of weapon emplacements, all aimed at the drifting Zathran fleet, all powered and ready. The human voice spoke one more time. "Commander Thazrik of the Eternal Triumph, we're going to restore minimal life support to your ships. You'll have air and water, nothing more. A diplomatic vessel will arrive in 6 hours to discuss terms. I suggest you use that time to think carefully about what you're going to say to them. Welcome to Sol System, Commander. We hope you enjoy your stay." Power flickered back to life throughout the ship, but only to life support systems. Atmospheric recyclers hummed back online. Gravity returned at minimal levels, but weapons, engines, communications, and everything else remained dark and dead. Thazrik collapsed into his command chair, staring at the Earth on the view screen. That beautiful blue planet, so peaceful and inviting, had just revealed itself as the heart of something terrifying. The humans hadn't fought them. They had simply turned off the Zathran's ability to fight, like an adult taking a weapon from a child. For the first time in his military career, spanning 40 years and dozens of campaigns, Fleet Commander Thazrik felt genuine fear. The Dominion's Supreme Council received the distress signals 3 days after the fleet went dark. Military analysts studied the garbled transmissions and declared them impossible. The Zathran fleet was the finest military force in that sector, equipped with weapons that could crack planets and shields that could withstand sustained bombardment. A primitive species using chemical rockets couldn't have defeated them, But the signals were real, and the fleet was silent. The Council dispatched Ambassador Kelthris on a diplomatic ship, flying under a white flag of peace and protected by every galactic convention of warfare. If the humans harmed a diplomatic vessel, every civilization in the galaxy would unite against them. It was an unbreakable rule, older than most spacefaring species. Kelthris approached the Sol system with extreme caution. Her ship's sensors detected the gravitational anomalies immediately, exactly as the probe data had shown. The asteroid belt pulsed with artificial gravity wells. The outer planet sat surrounded by structures that shouldn't exist. And everywhere, absolutely everywhere, her sensors screamed warnings about massive energy signatures that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. A transmission arrived before she entered Mars orbit. Ambassador Kelthris of the Zathran Dominion, you are cleared to approach. Follow the navigation path we're transmitting to your ship. Do not deviate. We have many automated defense systems, and accidents would be unfortunate. Her pilot followed the instructions precisely. The path took them past the disabled fleet, still drifting in the same positions where the humans had left them. Kelthris could see repair teams working on some ships trying desperately to restore systems. Nothing was working. The humans had broken them without inflicting a single point of physical damage. The navigation path led to a massive orbital platform above Earth. Kelthris had seen large space stations before, but this was something else. The structure stretched for hundreds of kilometers, dotted with docking bays, habitation rings, defensive emplacements, and facilities whose purposes she couldn't even guess. It looked like a small moon, but artificial and perfect. Inside the station, human guards escorted her to a conference room with windows overlooking the blue planet below. 3 humans sat waiting for her. 2 women and 1 man, all dressed in simple dark suits, all watching her with expressions that seemed friendly but calculated. The older woman spoke first. Ambassador Kelthris, I'm Secretary Chen. This is General Williams and Director Santos. We apologize for the dramatic reception your fleet received, but we have protocols for uninvited military forces in our space. Kelthris settled into a chair designed for species with her body structure. The humans had prepared for her arrival. You destroyed our fleet without warning. That's an act of war by any civilized standard. Secretary Chen smiled, but the expression didn't reach her eyes. We didn't destroy anything. Your ships are intact. Your crews are alive and healthy. We simply demonstrated that we could stop you anytime we wished. And we gave Commander Thazrik a warning before we acted. He ignored it. You cannot have the technology you displayed. Our intelligence reports show you're a primitive species, barely capable of reaching your own moon. Your intelligence reports show exactly what we wanted them to show, General Williams said. He activated a holographic display in the center of the table. Images appeared, showing human ships that looked nothing like the primitive rockets in the Dominion's files. Sleek vessels with designs that hurt Kelthris's eyes, covered in those same geometric patterns she'd seen on the defensive platforms. Ambassador, we've been lying to you. We've been lying to everyone. Director Santos leaned forward. 847 years ago, humanity achieved faster-than-light travel. We reached the stars full of hope, expecting to find friends, partners, and fellow explorers. Instead, we found a galaxy at war. Every species we encountered was fighting someone. Territory disputes, resource conflicts, religious crusades, simple conquest for its own sake. War was constant. That's the nature of intelligent life, Kelthris said. Competition drives advancement. Competition drives extinction, Secretary Chen replied. We watched species destroy each other over resources that existed in abundance elsewhere. We saw civilizations burn planets rather than share them. We met refugees fleeing genocide, only to watch them commit genocide when they found someone weaker. And we realized something important. We weren't ready to enter the galactic community. More importantly, the galactic community wasn't ready for us. The holographic display shifted, showing the Sol system as it had been centuries ago, then time lapsed forward. Kelthris watched as humans built and built and built. Asteroid mining on scales that boggled the mind. Megastructures that shouldn't be possible. Moon-sized ships hidden in plain sight. The entire solar system transformed into something that made the greatest Dominion installations look like children's toys. We decided to hide, General Williams said. We withdrew all our deep space colonies. We recalled our exploration fleets. We maintained a few secret observation posts in other systems. But otherwise, we came home. And we built. For 8 centuries we've been building. Why? Kelthris asked. If you have this technology, this power, why hide? You could have conquered half the galaxy by now. Secretary Chen's expression turned sad. Because conquest is the problem, not the solution. We watched the galaxy tear itself apart for centuries. We studied every war, every conflict, every diplomatic failure. We learned your languages, your tactics, your strengths, and your weaknesses. We infiltrated your governments, your militaries, your corporations. We know things about the Dominion that your Supreme Council doesn't know. The holographic display changed again, showing Dominion military deployments, secret bases, classified weapons projects. Kelthris recognized reports that should have been locked behind quantum encryption, accessible only to the highest levels of government. How did you get this information? We have observers everywhere, Director Santos said. Humans look similar enough to dozens of species that we can pass as natives with minor cosmetic modifications. We've been walking among you for centuries, learning, watching, waiting. Waiting for what? For someone to choose peace, Secretary Chen said. We hoped that eventually some species would look at the cycle of war and decide to stop. We hoped someone would learn that cooperation beats competition, that sharing beats conquest, that peace beats war. We wanted to believe that intelligent life could be better than what we saw. General Williams stood and walked to the window, looking down at Earth. But no one chose peace. Every species that gained power used it to dominate others. Every civilization that developed advanced technology used it for weapons first, tools second. And the weak species, the ones who couldn't defend themselves, they died. Or worse, they became slaves. You're asking us to believe you've built this enormous military capability purely out of defense? Kelthris said. That you've spent 800 years preparing for war because you wanted peace? We're not asking you to believe anything, Secretary Chen said. We're telling you what happened. And now we're telling you what happens next. The Zathran Dominion attempted to invade our space. Your fleet is our prisoner. We could destroy it easily. We could return it without functional weapons and laugh as you try to explain the defeat to your Supreme Council. Or we could do something different. The holographic display now showed the entire galaxy spinning slowly. We're tired of hiding, Director Santos said. We're tired of watching species destroy each other. We're tired of seeing primitive civilizations bombed from orbit before they have a chance to reach the stars. We're done being observers. What are you saying? We're saying the galaxy is going to change, Secretary Chen said. Whether you like it or not. Whether anyone likes it or not. We gave the universe 8 centuries to learn peace on its own. It failed. So now humanity is going to teach it. Kelthris felt her scales prickle with fear. You're declaring war on the entire galaxy? No! General Williams turned from the window, his expression hard. We're declaring peace. And anyone who disagrees is going to learn why humans spent 800 years preparing for this moment. The conference room's lights dimmed, and through the windows, Kelthris saw structures materializing all across Earth's orbit. Hundreds of them, thousands of them, appearing from stealth-like stars coming out at night, each one powerful enough to challenge a fleet. All of them aimed outward at the galaxy. We're sending you back to the Dominion with a message, Secretary Chen said. Gather your allies. Call your friends. Form whatever coalition you think you need. Then come back here and tell us whether the galaxy chooses peace or war. You have 30 days. Kelthris left the conference room in a daze, escorted back to her ship by silent human guards. As her vessel pulled away from the orbital platform, she looked back at Earth and understood the truth. The humans weren't primitives playing with fire. They were something far more dangerous. They were predators who had been hiding in plain sight, watching and learning, preparing for the moment when they would step out of the shadows and reveal themselves to be the apex species in the galaxy. And that moment had finally arrived. News of the Zathran defeat spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. At first, most civilizations dismissed it as propaganda or a negotiating tactic. The Dominion was powerful, yes, but not invincible. Surely they were exaggerating a minor setback to gain sympathy or support in some political maneuver. Then the humans started appearing. A human frigate, decloaked in the heart of the Korthan Empire's primary military shipyard, in orbit around their homeworld, surrounded by defense platforms and patrol fleets. It stayed exactly 60 seconds, broadcasting a simple message in perfect Korthan language. We see you. Then it vanished back into stealth, leaving the entire Korthan military scrambling to explain how a foreign vessel had penetrated their most secure facility without triggering a single alarm. A human diplomatic station materialized at the Galactic Senate, positioned perfectly in the center of the assembly hall. A human ambassador stepped out, requested membership for humanity in the galactic community, and presented credentials dating back 800 years. When the council laughed and denied the request, calling humans an unknown species with no verified history, the ambassador simply smiled. "We've been here all along. You just weren't looking carefully enough." The station vanished, taking the ambassador with it, leaving behind a holographic file containing surveillance footage from inside the Senate chambers, including private meetings that were supposed to be completely secure. Panic spread through civilized space faster than news had. If humans could go anywhere unseen, if they could penetrate any defense, enter any secure facility, access any classified information, then nowhere was safe. Intelligence agencies launched desperate investigations, trying to determine how many humans had infiltrated their governments. The investigations found evidence everywhere. Employees who had worked faithfully for decades suddenly revealed themselves as human observers before vanishing. Historical records showed humans present at major events throughout galactic history, standing in the background of photographs, mentioned briefly in footnotes, always there but never important enough to notice. The galaxy's major powers held an emergency summit. 7 civilizations sent their military leaders to a neutral station to discuss the human threat. The Zathran Dominion, humiliated by their defeat, argued for immediate military action. The Korthan Empire, still reeling from the shipyard incident, wanted a diplomatic solution. The Vrelian Compact suggested a trade embargo, cutting off any resources humans might need. Other species proposed everything from peace treaties to preemptive surrender. They formed a coalition. 10,000 warships from 7 civilizations, representing the largest combined military force ever assembled in galactic history. The fleet gathered at a staging point just outside the Sol system's outer boundary, making no attempt to hide their presence. Surely such an overwhelming display of force would make the humans negotiate seriously. Surely they would realize they couldn't fight the entire galaxy. The coalition's sensors detected no defensive preparations as they entered the Sol system. The moon-sized installations remained hidden in stealth. The geometric patterns in the asteroid belt looked like natural formations to anyone who didn't know what to look for. Even Earth's orbital defenses seemed minimal. Just a few dozen platforms that the coalition's firepower could obliterate in seconds. Fleet Marshal Krendeth of the Korthan Empire commanded the coalition forces. He'd studied every scrap of intelligence about the Zathran defeat, analyzed every sensor reading, consulted with experts in theoretical physics and advanced warfare. His conclusion was that the humans had used some kind of localized disruption field to disable the Zathran ships. Powerful, yes, but limited in range. Against 10,000 ships spread across a wide formation, their disruption field would be useless. Some ships would get through. Enough to force negotiations. A transmission arrived from Earth on all channels. A different human voice this time, younger, female, but with the same unsettling calm. "Welcome to Sol System. We've been expecting you. We're giving you one choice, and you need to understand it's the only choice you're going to get." Krendeth opened a channel. "We come representing 7 civilizations and 2 billion sentient beings. Your threats against the Zathran Dominion cannot be allowed to stand. You will surrender your military technology, submit to galactic authority, and join the civilized community under our terms, or face total economic and military isolation." "We're not interested in your terms," the human voice replied. "Here are ours. The galaxy establishes an immediate armistice authority, with mandatory peaceful arbitration for all disputes. All conquest-based expansion ends immediately. Species borders are frozen at current positions. Any civilization that breaks the peace answers to humanity." Laughter erupted across command channels. The audacity of these humans, dictating terms to the assembled might of 7 civilizations. Krendeth felt his blood pressure rising. "You cannot seriously believe we'll accept ultimatums from a single system species. We have 10,000 warships. You have clever tricks and stealth technology. The numbers speak for themselves." "Numbers matter less than you think," the human replied. "You're right that we're a single system species. You're wrong about what that means. We're not weak because we stayed home. We stayed home because we were building something that takes time and resources. We turned our entire solar system into a weapon, and now we're going to show you why." The Coalition fleet opened fire. 10,000 ships launched missiles, plasma bolts, kinetic projectiles, and exotic energy weapons at Earth and its orbital defenses. Enough firepower to sterilize a dozen planets, all focused on humanity's homeworld. Nothing reached the surface. Point defense systems activated from positions that hadn't existed a microsecond earlier. Laser grids materialized in the path of incoming projectiles, vaporizing them instantly. Missiles detonated harmlessly against shields that phased into existence exactly where they were needed, before disappearing again. Energy weapons dispersed against gravitational lenses that bent space itself, redirecting attacks back toward the empty void. Every single shot was intercepted. Every single weapon was neutralized, and the humans hadn't fired a single shot in return. Then Earth's moon split open, not destroyed, not exploded, but opened like a mechanical iris. The lunar surface, which had looked natural and ancient, revealed itself as a massive door. Inside, gleaming under artificial lights, sat thousands of human warships, each one larger than anything in the Coalition fleet, each one armed with weapons the Coalition could only guess at, each one ready to launch. They poured out of the moon like insects from a disturbed hive, taking up positions around the Coalition fleet in perfect military formation. Within minutes, 10,000 Coalition ships found themselves surrounded by 15,000 human vessels, all armed and ready but not firing. The human voice spoke again. "We could have destroyed you the moment you entered our system. We still can. Our weapons are better than yours. Our ships are faster. Our shields are stronger. We've had 800 years to prepare for this moment, while you've been fighting among yourselves. But we'd rather not kill you. We'd rather you made a different choice." Admiral Krendath stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His sensors couldn't get accurate readings on the human ships. The hull material seemed to absorb sensor beams. The power signatures fluctuated in patterns that made no sense, and the sheer size of the vessels dwarfed his own command ship, which was already considered one of the largest warships in the galaxy. "You've been hiding this fleet inside your moon?" he managed to ask. "This fleet and others," the human replied. "The moon is just one shipyard. We have others. Many others. Did you really think we spent 8 centuries building nothing but defensive platforms?" Krendath's communication panel lit up with priority transmissions from his fellow commanders. Reports were coming in from every Coalition homeworld. Human ships had appeared in orbit around every single planet represented in the Coalition fleet. Not attacking, just sitting there in perfect position to strike. A demonstration that humanity could reach any world in the galaxy whenever they wanted. The human voice continued. "Here's what happens now. You have 24 hours to decide. Accept our terms, establish a galactic armistice authority, and end the cycle of conquest that's been destroying civilizations for millennia. Or reject our terms and face the consequences. We won't negotiate. We won't compromise. We won't wait for you to build better weapons and try again. This is the moment where the galaxy chooses its future. You're demanding we surrender our sovereignty," Krendath said. "You're asking us to give up our right to expand, to compete, to pursue our own interests. We're asking you to stop killing each other over rocks and gas clouds," the human voice replied. "We're asking you to redirect your military budgets toward science, exploration, and development. We're asking you to build instead of destroy. And yes, we're using force to make you do it, because you've proven you won't do it voluntarily. This is tyranny." "Yes," the human said simply. "It is. We're the strong imposing our will on the weak. We're exactly what we hate about the rest of you. The difference is that we're imposing peace instead of war. We're protecting the defenseless instead of exploiting them. We're giving younger civilizations the chance to grow up without being conquered before they reach the stars. Is it tyranny? Absolutely. But it's the best kind of tyranny the galaxy has ever seen." The communication ended, leaving the Coalition fleet surrounded by human warships, all waiting silently for a response. Krendath looked at his tactical display, calculating odds, running scenarios, searching for any possible way to win a military confrontation. Every simulation ended the same way: total defeat. The humans had too many ships, too much firepower, too much technology that the Coalition didn't understand. But more importantly, the humans had already won. They had ships at every Coalition homeworld. They could strike anywhere, anytime. The fleet gathered here was meaningless. The real battle was already over, decided before it even began. The coalition had 24 hours to choose between peace and extinction. Krendoth suspected he already knew which option they would pick. Survival always won over pride. 23 hours and 47 minutes after the human ultimatum, the coalition transmitted their acceptance. Not because they wanted to, not because they believed in humanity's vision of peace, but because the alternative was extinction. Every military analyst, every strategic planner, every simulation program reached the same conclusion. Humanity could destroy any civilization in the galaxy, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop them. The Terran Concordat was established within a week. The agreement was simple and absolute. All member civilizations would submit their disputes to binding arbitration. All military expansion would cease immediately. All wars would end within 30 days with neutral human observers ensuring compliance. Species that were currently occupied would be freed. Refugees would be protected. Developing civilizations would be left alone to grow at their own pace. And if anyone broke the rules, humanity would respond. The galaxy waited for humans to reveal themselves fully, to establish colonies throughout known space, to claim resources and territory as payment for their enforcement of the peace. Military analysts predicted humanity would demand tribute, economic concessions, and political influence. After all, that's what powerful species did. That's how the galaxy worked. Instead, the humans mostly vanished again. Small diplomatic stations appeared at key locations, modest facilities that housed human observers and arbitration teams. But the vast military infrastructure that humanity had revealed remained hidden. The moon closed back up, looking natural and ancient once more. The thousands of human warships disappeared into stealth. The installations throughout the Sol system faded from sensors as if they had never existed. Only one thing changed. Humanity established the Terran Guard, a military force dedicated solely to enforcing the Concordat. Small patrol ships appeared periodically throughout the galaxy, checking compliance, investigating reports of violence, and serving as a reminder that humanity was always watching. The first test came quickly. The Vrelian Compact, humiliated by their forced participation in the Concordat, decided to test humanity's resolve. They launched a quiet invasion of a pre-FTL species called the Neth, a peaceful race just beginning to develop fusion technology. The Vrelian fleet approached the Neth homeworld in stealth, planning to establish occupation before humanity could respond. A single human ship appeared, decloaking directly above the Vrelian fleet. No warnings, no negotiations. The human vessel disabled every Vrelian warship, with the same weaponless technology they had used on the Zathran. Then it towed the entire invasion fleet back to Vrelian space, depositing them in orbit around the Compact's homeworld, like a parent returning a child's stolen toys. The transmission that followed was brief. "This is your only warning. Next time we will not be gentle." The Vrelian government protested, claiming the invasion had been unauthorized, a rogue military commander acting without approval. The humans didn't argue. They simply released surveillance footage showing the Vrelian High Council authorizing the invasion in a secret session. The council members who had voted for the invasion were quietly removed from power by their own people. No one wanted to be responsible for provoking humanity. Word of the incident spread quickly. Other species testing the limits of the Concordat reconsidered their plans. The message was clear. Humanity meant what they said, and they had the power to enforce their will anywhere in the galaxy. Within a generation, the galaxy transformed. Military budgets were slashed across every civilization, with resources redirected toward infrastructure, education, and research. Wars that had raged for centuries ended abruptly, replaced by arbitration hearings where humans listened impartially to both sides and issued binding decisions. Some species hated the system, claiming it robbed them of their warrior traditions and cultural identity. Others embraced it, grateful for the peace. The human question became the galaxy's greatest mystery. Who were these beings who commanded such power yet chose to remain hidden? Conspiracy theories flourished. Some believed humans were ancient machines, artificial intelligences left behind by a long-dead civilization. Others thought they were extra-dimensional beings, not truly from Earth at all, but using it as a base of operations. A few conspiracy theorists claimed humans didn't exist, that the ships and stations were automated systems controlled by some unknown force. Religious movements formed around humanity. Some species worshipped them as gods sent to bring order to chaos. Others vilified them as demons, enslaving the galaxy in chains of forced peace. Most species simply accepted them as a fact of existence like gravity or entropy. Humanity was there, whether you liked it or not, and it was better to work within their system than fight against it. Inside the Sol system, humanity continued its existence largely unchanged. Children went to school, learning about the galaxy their ancestors had watched from afar. Adults worked in the vast industrial complexes hidden throughout the system, maintaining the ships and weapons that kept the peace. Scientists pushed the boundaries of physics even further, developing technologies that made their current capabilities seem primitive. The human government debated endlessly whether they had made the right choice. Critics argued they had imposed their will on species that never asked for help, becoming the very tyrants they had once hidden from. Supporters pointed to the millions of lives saved, the civilizations preserved, the young species given the chance to reach the stars without being conquered. The arguments never ended, but the concordate continued. A human patrol ship called the Quiet Vigil detected a new species broadcasting radio signals from a planet in an unexplored sector. The crew debated their response. Captain Sarah Chen, great-great-granddaughter of the secretary who had confronted the Zathran, studied the signals carefully. They were simple, primitive, full of hope and curiosity about the universe. Do we watch them like our ancestors watched everyone else? Her first officer asked. Let them discover the galaxy on their own terms? Sarah thought about the history files she'd studied in academy. 8 centuries of watching species destroy each other, 8 centuries of preparation and waiting. The moment of revelation when humanity stepped out of hiding and forced the galaxy to change. We watch, she decided. We protect them from anyone who might harm them. And when they're ready to reach the stars, we make sure they find a galaxy worth exploring. She transmitted orders to establish a stealth monitoring station in the system, far enough away that the new species would never detect it, close enough to respond if anyone threatened them. The Quiet Vigil moved on to its next patrol route, one of hundreds of human ships silently guarding the peace. Throughout the galaxy, in the spaces between stars, in the hidden facilities and stealth stations, humanity maintained its vigil. They had spent 800 years preparing for the moment they revealed themselves. Now they would spend however long it took, ensuring that revelation had been worth it. On Earth, children looked up at the night sky and learned about their role as guardians. They studied history, strategy, diplomacy, and technology. They prepared for the day when they would take their turn on patrol ships, in arbitration chambers, at observation posts watching species that didn't know they were being protected. The galaxy had peace now, not because species had learned to love each other, not because war had become unprofitable, not because diplomacy had finally succeeded. The galaxy had peace because humanity had decided it would have peace, and humanity had the power to enforce that decision. Whether that made them heroes or villains, history would eventually decide. But for now, in the quiet darkness between the stars, the Terrans watched and waited. They had revealed themselves to the galaxy once. They would not need to do so again. The galaxy knew they were there, knew they were watching, knew that breaking the peace meant facing the species that had turned an entire solar system into a fortress, and then forced the greatest military powers in known space to surrender without firing a shot. Humanity had finally stepped out of the shadows, and the galaxy would never be the same. In a small apartment on Earth, an old woman named Secretary Chen sat by her window looking up at the stars. She remembered the day Ambassador Kelthris had left their meeting, the fear in the Zathran's eyes, the weight of the decision humanity had made. Had they done the right thing? Had forcing peace been better than allowing war? She didn't know. She would never know. But when she looked at the reports coming in from across the galaxy, reports of species thriving, of civilizations developing without fear of conquest, of children growing up in peace rather than war, she thought maybe, just maybe, humanity had made the right choice. She closed her eyes and smiled. Somewhere out there, in the vast darkness of space, her granddaughter was on patrol, watching over species that would never know her name, protecting people who would never thank her, doing the job humanity had chosen for itself 800 years ago. The job of making sure the galaxy survived long enough to become something better than what it had been. And that, Secretary Chen thought as sleep took her, was enough.